21st at 6:30. And we do have one agenda item as well on the agenda this evening, and that is agenda item number 1. It's granting the Buck 50 relay race the ability to close certain portion of 2nd Street for April 21 through 23rd for its annual Buck 50 race. And that is all I have to report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Human Resources Committee. Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Geringer. We do have one item on the agenda this evening. That's item number 7 for a second read. And it's an ordinance establishing rates of pay and benefits for classified, non-classified, and management level employees. And after the first read, it was brought to our attention that we need to make a couple adjustments to this where some pay wasn't exactly, and it was just pennies on the dollar, but we still need to make the corrections. So when Mrs. Spetnagel gives her report this evening, she'll explain in detail what these changes are. And I think everyone has those in front of them this evening. And then at the appropriate time, I will move that we accept the amendments to the ordinance by substitution. And that's all I have to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our Development Committee. Ms. Nickerson.
Development has nothing on the agenda, and therefore we have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Next, Finance Committee. Mr. Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President Geringer. We have 3 items on the agenda, 4, 5, and 6. Both are second readings. Number 1, an ordinance accepting the appropriation of $5,001 received as a payoff of a CHIP mortgage and declaring an emergency. The second item is an ordinance accepting and appropriating $3,381 in forfeiture contraband and declaring an emergency. And our third item from Finance is an ordinance authorizing the auction of miscellaneous items, including city-owned vehicles and equipment which are not needed for public use or obsolete or unfit for use for which they were acquired in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code section 721.15, and also declaring an emergency. And all those items, I will not be asking our auditor for any more explanation on those tonight. Thank you.
Next to our Parks and Rec Committee. Ms. Henderson.
Thank you, President Geringer. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first is item number 8, the Kenworth Truck Parade to happen on Saturday, June 18th, with the parade beginning at approximately 8:30 p.m. They'll have around 60 trucks. And I don't know if there's a way we can amend this language. I did not intend for there to be emergency language on this item. So we'll look into the removing that emergency language there. The second item that I have is item number 9, and that is the Yellow Day celebration on May 6th, involving a lot of the local schools here and downtown businesses and doing acts of kindness. So that'll be going on most of the day on Friday, May 6th. And then the last item is item number 10, Feast of the Flowering Moon, which will occur on May 26th through the 30th. And then we had a committee meeting last week, and there will be a 4th item that'll be up and coming that we discussed. It is a half marathon that 50 West is wanting to host, so be excited for that one. Other events coming up, the Leprechaun Chase from this past Saturday was rescheduled to April 2nd. Another upcoming 5K on May 7th is Fight Like a Kid 5K. Details on both of those can be found on Facebook. The very last thing that I have is Chief Glenna Wallace of the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma is going to be coming to Chiillicothe, to the University of Chiillicothe. She'll be giving a lecture at Bennett Hall entitled A History of Leadership as Service, Connecting the Personal and Professional Kennedy Speaker. That will be held Monday, March 28th at 2 p.m. at Bennett Hall. It is free to the public, or free and open to the public. So that's very exciting to have her in Chiillicothe, and that is all I have.
Thank you. Moving on to the Safety Service Committee, Ms. Preston.
Okay, so Safety Service has 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first one's going to be a third read for 21-023. It's amending sections 351.13 of the codified ordinances. It's in regards to 48-hour parking. Number 11 is a ordinance section pertaining to the nuisance property code enforcement officer. And this is going to be included in Mrs. Spetnagel's conversation in regards to Mrs. Payne's ordinance. It's being declared an emergency in order to try to catch up with that one because the city wants to be able to hire a nuisance officer, and it's changing the ordinance from part-time to full-time. Since spring is coming, they want to be able to hire somebody quickly. The last one is going to be number 12. It's going to be a first reading, an ordinance accepting and appropriating DNR grant funds in the amount of $1,000 for the fire department's Fish with Firefighter. This event is actually next month. The grant was just awarded. It's being declared an emergency because they need those funds for that event, and I'm going to ask for the 3-read rule to be waived on that one. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next is the Engineering Committee, Mr. Farrow.
Thank you. Engineering has one item on the agenda this evening, which is the third reading for an ordinance allowing a covered entry at 14 and 16 East 2nd Street to encroach onto the sidewalk and city right-of-way and relocating a street light and sign at the property owner's expense. As stated at the previous 2 meetings, this has been approved by the Design Review Board and everything has been okayed by the City Engineering Department. It's been worked on since 2019, so I'd ask for your support to get this passed this evening. That would be all. Thank you.
Next is our City Services and Transit Committee. In the absence of Ms. Gillen, does anyone from that committee have a report? Finally, our Utilities Committee. Mr. Prohl.
Utilities has no items on tonight's agenda, and we have nothing to report at this time. So, quick report. That concludes it. Thanks.
We'll now move on to the reports from our officials. Our Mayor, Mr. Luke Feeney.
Thank you, President Geringer. Just quickly commenting on tonight's agenda items. In particular, the ordinance that I think Auditor Spetnagel will also comment on, and appreciate working with Council to update this ordinance. What traditionally happens here is this ordinance follows the negotiations of mainly the AFSCME bargaining unit contract, and then the addition, excuse me, the Councilwoman Preston mentioned is something that was budgeted for last year. As she mentioned, the 2 essential changes will happen. One is we're requesting a change to the codified ordinances, changing a part-time position to a full-time position, and then adjusting the pay scale, which was originally in the codified ordinances, which I just don't think is the right place for it. So I appreciate working with Councilwoman Preston, working towards that, and I think that that's a solution that will be beneficial to the city at large, and as she mentioned, especially this time of year as the grass starts to grow. Moving on from agenda items, just want to mention a couple things. I mentioned at the last council meeting, the active attack integrated response training happened last week, and really just a neat thing and a good showing from the community. I think we had 18 EMS from various townships, 26 law enforcement from outside of the city of Chiillicothe employment, and then internally 40 Chiillicothe police officers and 8 firefighters. So again, an in-house training that the community took advantage of. So I just want to thank both the police and fire chiefs for that work. Excellent work improving the safety of our community. Also want to comment on a house fire that many of you are aware of on Western Avenue about a week ago. Total loss at the house. Our fire department responded very quickly. Police, fire, busy intersection, but ultimately a good outcome. We had 18 firefighters from our fire department respond. The foundation within 24 hours was visibly shifting, so the engineering department got out quickly and worked, thanks in part to work we've done recently related to demolitions, and we were able to get a contractor out there to safely remedy the situation, get it down quickly. So good example of the fire department and other internal departments working well together. That stuff isn't always as easy as it seems, and it's always important to get it taken care of quickly for the safety, especially on a busy road like that. So thank you to those departments. And I also want to thank the mutual aid that we received from the VA. Some of you don't know we have mutual aid agreements with a variety of township fire departments, the VA fire department, for both fire and EMS. I think the agreement calls for 2 automatically to be sent from the VA fire department. We had 4 VA firefighters at that fire last week, and just really appreciate that working together. So 22 total firefighters on the scene, which is a big deal when you're responding quickly like that. So want to thank them. And on that note, related to the VA, it was released publicly today in a big report, but basically the conclusion of, I don't know how long of study and recommendation have come out. Many of you were on a call last week that was sort of preparing us for recommendations regarding our Chiillicothe VA here. I don't profess to be an expert in the situation, but the proposal, as I understand it, would largely close down the facility in the location that it's at and the services that it currently provides. That is a dramatic simplification of the scenario. It would not remove, the proposal would not necessarily remove all services from Ross County, but it's unclear at this time what that proposal would actually do for Ross County or the city, and what would actually stay. There are specific things proposed, one of which would be building a new facility separate and apart from the current facility in Pickaway County, and really taking away a lot of the services that are out there now. Again, I don't profess to be an expert in the business model of VA out there, but I do know personally, my family, and I know many veterans that have gotten incredible service at that VA, and I can't think of anything in my time as mayor, or really my time as living in Chiillicothe, that would have a more dramatic impact than that facility shutting down on this community, and more importantly, our veterans, really veterans across southeastern Ohio. I am certain that there will be a strong and assertive response from our community. I know that it has already started, but I wanted to make sure council was well aware of the situation. I will keep you informed. Obviously, there's going to be a range of opinions, but my current opinion on the situation is that I will personally be doing everything I can to keep those services right here in Ross County. So I'll keep you informed. And again, there are many people in the community that know a lot more about the situation than I do. But I think we would all be well served to educate ourselves and advocate for an outcome that keeps a high quality range of services for veterans right here in Ross County. And with that, I will conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll now move on to our auditor, Mrs. Spetnagel.
I do not have any new items on the agenda tonight, but item number 7, we would like to amend by substitution, and that is an ordinance establishing the pay rates of the non-classified and classified bargaining unit. So we did make a couple changes. The court reporter and the court aide should have been at the same rate. A couple of the year steps were off by like a penny, so I did adjust those just to make sure that those tied going forward. And then we added the nuisance officer on page 2 with a step increase of 3 years on there. So those are the main changes that were made to this ordinance. And then we have closed the books for February, so you will be receiving those financial statements tonight or tomorrow. And then I just want to announce a budget review for March the 28th at 6:30. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Bettenagel. We'll now move on to our law director, Ms. Villarreal.
Thank you. Our office has sometimes asked what we ask questions. They ask us questions. What does the law director's staff actually do on a day-to-day basis? So I just wanted to give you kind of a heads up on that and give you a little bit of an idea, peek into their day. They're busy from the time they get there until the time they leave every day. During the day, they address things such as preparation of the legislation, research, addressing calls from various city departments and citizens concerning the city matters and the municipal court matters. That includes witnesses, victims, everybody else. Managing the schedule and the payroll. The majority of those particular things are done by the office manager, but we also have 2 full-time employees that handle preparation of all cases that are being prosecuted in the Chiillicothe Municipal Court. These 2 people each get 1 courtroom, which means they each have 2 prosecutors in all of their cases every week. So it's a huge load. They have to physically open the file. They obtain the proper law enforcement reports, lab reports, videos, all supplemental evidence. They have to review all the evidence, issue subpoenas for victims, witnesses. So there's really a lot involved, especially if they anticipate. For example, last week in one courtroom, we had 3 trials stacked in one courtroom and 2 in the other. All 5 of those cases had to be prepared to go to trial. And you didn't know until you got there if any or all were going or what the deal was. So they had to be prepared for all of them. So did the prosecutors. So all the paperwork had to be done. All the witnesses had to be there. I mean, there's a lot involved. There's also 1 additional staff member, excuse me, that's part-time. She particularly she closes the case files. She prepares video evidence for discovery purposes. She files paperwork. She also helps answer the phones. And also remember, there's only Teresa plus the 2.5 up there. If somebody's out on vacation or if somebody's sick, everybody else has to step in and perform not only their duties, but that other person's duties, because we have to follow the court deadlines. And we've got discovery deadlines, subpoena deadlines. So it's nonstop up there every day. With that said, I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that generally in the spring and summer, we're anticipating staff taking well-deserved vacation time. So I want to remind the committee chair people to submit legislation timely and include all information necessary for us to prepare that legislation that comports with your request. Our goal is to prepare everything in a timely manner. Therefore, last-second legislation requests are not encouraged during this busy season. They've been really good. Typically, I think we said minimum of a week. Well, I don't remember the last time that's even happened. It's usually, hey, can we put this on for this week? Or, it's last minute, and we scurry and do what we can, but it's really not fair to the girls. So we would ask her that you please take that in consideration and do it timely. And additionally, we're also exploring new options for video evidence storage that could potentially reduce our costs related to the cloud storage of the evidence that we currently use today. So there's a lot going on a regular basis. We just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next is a report from Council President. In regards to the Health Board nomination, Mayor Feeney had resubmitted Dr. John Gabus for nomination from the city for the seat on the Health District Board. Based off of his request, is there a motion for Dr. Gabus's nomination to the Health District Board? Motion by Ms. Nickerson, a second. Mr. Prohl, roll call on the motion.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Preston,
No.
Prohl,
Yes.
Henderson,
No.
Payne,
Before I vote, I would like to thank all those that reached out to me, both in favor and not in favor of this nomination. That being said, I do need to vote as my constituents and those that elected me to this position would like for me to vote no.
Anthony Phillips,
No.
Farrow,
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
That resulted in a 4-4 tie.